Was that the last Make It Rain? I think it was. So, yeah, we're just going to go for this. I don't want him to untap. If he gets to draw, we're in bad shape. Hey everyone, Raptor Spank here, and today we have another episode of On the Grind, the show where I cover a deck I'm playing in ranked. This episode will be a bit different than usual as we are revisiting Bilgewater Burn. Therefore, I'm not going to break down every individual card, but rather cover some key choices and any new flex spots. So if you want to see the full breakdown of each card by card, it's the same list as we ran in the previous episode, so you can check that out. All of that's still valid. I'm just going to talk about why we're keeping certain cards, as well as some of the new considerations we have. Then I'm going to go a bit more in depth on different matchups. I'll jump into some ranked after that and review how we do. First, I'm going to look at Monkey Idol, the key talking point in the previous build. So, Monkey Idol is the 3 cost 0/5 immobile, round start deal 2 to me, and summon a Powder Monkey. I am even more sold on this card than I was before. After playing a ton of games with this, I ended up playing a total of 87 games, I believe, in ranked on Masters, plus whatever I played during the climb to get to Masters with the card. And what I found is that Monkey Idol is actually absurdly good. It's really good in the mirror match, but just in general, turbo leveling Gangplank is so massive. Especially that mirror match, it's super crazy. If you get the first Gangplank that's leveled up, you just wipe the opponent's board in the mirror match. So it's very, very brutal, and it's very, very strong for you to do that, and this helps you get there even faster. And being able to block on the non-attack turns without losing board is actually pretty huge. There's a lot of aggro decks in the format, so being able to have essentially a free blocker every turn is pretty good. And it still deals damage, so it's just a win-win for us. And now you can also sleep with the fishes on the monkey to guarantee some damage. This is really relevant if you are at 4 out of 5 turns for Gangplank and you have him in hand and you have the mana to play him, but you want to level him up before you play him so you can immediately swing and get the trigger. This is actually relevant a lot. I've had this happen a lot, especially in the new patch. So you can always sleep with the fish as the monkey, because then if they kill the monkey in response, yeah, you lose the 2 damage, but you still deal 1 damage to him, which means you can still play the Gangplank. It'll still be leveled up. It's just a pretty good play. So there's a lot of neat tricks like that you can do. And it's still good in the meta currently, in my opinion, because it's kind of good to chump block some things out of the build Spring deck, like Star Shepherd. Then another card I want to look at is Captain Farron, the 8 cost 8/8 with Overwhelm. We have one of it in the deck, and when he's summoned, he creates 3 Decimates in the hand. I'm less sold on him at the moment. I'm actually thinking about replacing him myself, because I've had a number of games where he's just been a dead card, where it's just a really bad card in my hand that I don't want to have, and I'm never going to have time to get to, essentially. He is still a solid one of. He's good into the slow matchups, things like control, or things that are just going to build a big board state that we're going to have a hard time forcing damage through, because he is an 8/8 with Overwhelm, and getting the Decimates means there's a lot of burn if we can get into turn 9. The problem is, things like Build Spring, that's big right now, you usually don't get to turn 9. That's not something you're usually afforded. They can win with the Spring well before that point. So, he doesn't really do enough there, and against go-wide decks that are going to pressure us, he's 1 unit for 8 mana, which means they often can still kill us, getting around him, essentially, because he's only 1 blocker. And then often he just can't even attack or deal damage, because Hush is pretty big right now, so that makes him even worse, because he's essentially just 3 decimates for 1 spot in the deck, which is good, but not really the crazy payoff that you want him to be, essentially. So I may look to replace him in the future, but right now I'm running him because he is still good, and getting the Decimates, there's matchups that's good. Now let's look at some of the flex spots. You can still replace Monkey Idol with Petty Officer or House Spider, essentially, for a more go-wide strategy. This is kind of weak into Spring, though, at the moment, because that's going to deal damage to their units, especially like the 1/1 Spiderling off House Spider. They can just block it and not lose their unit, and now it's taken damage, so it can be healed by Spring or other effects, so they can get to leveling up or ultimating their Spring sooner. So it's kind of weaker than it was before, and I already didn't think it was good enough. Big leading thought, though, is how we want to replace Captain Farron if we do. One big choice is you can go with a 1 of the Dreadway, the 9 cost 4/8 with Fearsome, double all damage dealt by your spells. are skill spells and allies, and when you play them, draw a Gangplank. It's another great late game payoff. It boosts all of our cards, so everything's better. It finds us a GP, which can be good against control for going wide, and it's got a massive body on its own, but it doesn't give direct Nexus damage, and it's still a turn 9 play, which doesn't solve that aspect of Captain Farron. So it's kind of a neat trick, but not necessarily the best choice. We can also drop Farron plus some number of Decimates or Jacks for Riptide Rex. That might be strong against Spring to clear their board, but it might just ultimate their Spring earlier if it doesn't actually kill their units. So it's a toss-up. I could definitely see Riptide Rex being better than it was into the deck now, but I'd have to play with it more. We can also drop Farron for a 1 of Shunpo, the 5-cost slow spell, deal 2 to an enemy, then rally. This can surprise win out of nowhere. It helps to level MF or get multiple MF/GP triggers, which is also really, really great. It can allow us to attack on off turns. It essentially just speeds up our clock really, really well, and it still serves as either damage or removal on its own. It's expensive for 5 mana for 2, but the fact that it can hit either is really good, and again, giving us 1 extra attack can be really good, especially with some of our bigger attackers or things like Zap that can force the damage through. But even with other things, depending on how early into the game it is and how much of a board our opponent's built, it can be just massive. So this is one of my leading choices to replace him with, potentially. And then there is a possibility that we want to drop that Farron and maybe even trim a Decimate or Jack or something else for 1 or more Scorched Earth, the 3-cost fast spell, kill a damaged unit, or destroy a landmark. This really should not be a card we want, and is definitely not a card that we would ultimately want in a deck where we are trying to go fast. However, Spring is still young at the moment, and we don't know exactly where it's going to settle out, and it very well may be a bad matchup. As it is, it's kind of a rough coin flippy matchup, and if that becomes a bigger problem, it may be necessary to run this just as a way to deal with, say, Spring or Tahm Kench, just to buy us time or free our Gangplank to attack again in the case of Tahm Kench. So I could see this being a change that we have to make, not that we want to make, but we're forced to make essentially by the new meta. Now, another choice is we can replace Idle with 3 Lounging Lizards, the 3-cost 3/5 with Elusive, round start, deal 2 to me. It's a great 3-drop that's evasive because of Elusive, so it's hard for them to block. It can force a lot of damage through, and we should be able to get 2 attacks with it, although we have no way to heal it, so it will die after 3 turns or more, or sooner than that. But I think it is a better option than Ballista. I think we're more likely to get damage through with this, and more likely to get a lot of damage through with this, whereas Ballista can get blocked fairly easily and dies fairly easily. This does not die as easily, and I think Elusive is probably better than Overwhelm. So, in my opinion, this is a better replacement for the Ballista that we had as a flex spot before. But like I said, we have no way to prevent it from killing itself, so that's a slight concern. Now I'm going to do some quick mulligan ideas. Basically, it's the same as before. You always want to keep at least one drop and as many as 3. You don't want 4 1-drops, but you'll go as high as 3, so you can go 1 turn 1, then the other 2 on turn 2. It's a really good play, and that's pretty good into basically any matchup. You want to pitch any Decimates, Farrons, and most Demolitionists, as long as you don't have a unit that, say, survives the trigger. Like Demolition is fine to keep with Grenadier, but it's bad to keep with anything that has 1 health. So you'll want to pitch those pretty much anytime you see them, because it's just better to top deck that than to have it in your opening hand. Idle is great in games where you're going to be on the attack turn 2 and turn 4, and it's also great against aggro matchups where it's going to be able to attack for us and also block for us. So that's a card you definitely want to keep in those matchups. Zap is great against Ramp or other decks where we think they're going to be able to lock out the board, where we're going to need Elusive to force damage through. But just in general, you want to look for a fast hand in basically any matchup. Now let's look at some of the big matchups right now. Starting with, obviously, the big new one, Bilge Spring, the Bilgewater Targon deck that looks to win through Spring of Life, although it has some alternate win conditions. But Precious Pet is an all-star here. This is the best matchup for Precious Pet. They often don't have ways to block Fearsome, or they have to do a lot to make that happen, like Pale Cascade, or sometimes they run Lounging Lizard. So that's those are their only options to deal with Precious Pet. So it's often Like, this is the first matchup where Precious Pet is often forcing damage through on turn 5, turn 6, etc., where it's usually the card is bad by then or useless by then. So this is one of the rare matchups where it really does a ton of damage. For the same reason, Zap is also good, because unless they're running Lounging Lizard, this can usually force damage through, and if they are running Lounging Lizard, that's still only 3 cards that can really stop it. Gangplank is also really great, because the trigger, often with a barrel or two, can be a board wipe even through their healing, and nothing can really block him and survive, while also nothing can kill him usually from their deck. So it's a great card for just forcing a ton of damage through, dealing with a wide board state, and still having him left over at the end of it. Monkey Idol's also good to block threats like Star Shepherd or other things that could be concerning, like buffed Boxtopuses or Codgers, whatever. They have a lot of different strong units to swing with, so being able to block is pretty good. But generally speaking, we're looking to go fast, and Burn is very strong here. You can also keep a Make It Rain, because if they let their shields down for a second, essentially, you can use this to clear a lot of their threats. But you're just looking to have a lot of ways they can't deal with that forces damage through, and you're trying to level Gangplank as fast as possible and then play him after your opponent attacks, so you get the barrel and get to untap with a second barrel for the 3 damage trigger. That's definitely where we want to be. Now, let's talk about DT Dragons. This is a great matchup for us. You're, again, looking for a fast speed, but their early game is usually pretty weak. If they have Lieutenant, that can be a bit of a problem for us, but generally speaking, we should be able to do a ton of damage early without them being able to do much, and Zap can get by with damage more often than you would expect for something that small. And Idol is also great, because they're going to have a lot of things that we will eventually need to block because they have a ton of power, so being able to have these free blockers is great. And Jack is a great way to keep forcing damage through even when we can't attack, but basically you want to look to run them down and be super aggro early, and then once they start to get the board under their control, then you leave all your units back to block so they can't get you dead with their massive creatures, and then you just look to close out the game with Burn best you can. FT Trundle Soul is one of our best matchups. They have few to no turn 1 to turn 2 plays, which means we should be able to get a ton of free damage through. So you want to look for as many 1 to sometimes 2 drops as possible so you can have all these crazy plays and just keep swinging. You usually want to attack before they can play a blocker on turn 3 in case they're on Weirding Stones. Unless you have Misfortune, because if you have Misfortune, you can play her and swing with her, and they can't block her, otherwise it kills the Weirding Stone, so that should force enough damage through to make it worth letting him block. But basically, speed is key. You just want to run him down fast, and it should be pretty easy to do that. IT Lee Sin is semi-favored, but kind of scary. You want to look to run him down before they get the one-turn kill. Pet is good to get around Sketcher/Giver. Make It Rain's also good to deal with Sketcher plus the Challenger Snake that it often gets, or Dragonlings. It could be good for a lot of things. You can also strip Barrier off Lee Sin, which can sometimes get you a kill against him, which can be huge. And Gangplank can be a pretty strong late game, though it's a little bit sketchy to keep something like that, but he does clear most of their blockers away and kills Dragonling without it being able to block and gain life. And Idol can be a good way to enable this Gangplank win condition while also being able to block some of their threats. And then finally, Zombie Ash. I don't expect to see this much anymore, but historically this is our worst matchup. Freeze plus healing is very hard to stick damage through. Ashes make for a fast kill against us, so we don't have very long to try and piece it together. But you just want to keep essentially early aggression and look to win late with stuff like Jack or Decimate that's hard for them to deal with, especially if you can get them to go for their combo and then finish them off with a Decimate that you slow roll. That's a great way to find the win through all of their healing. And that's the deck for this episode. You can find the deck code as well as the deck link in the description below if you want to try the deck out yourself. Now let's jump into some matches. Alright, DT Dragons. Mono Shyvana, that's interesting. I do think Soraka is the best way to play this deck, but this should be interesting. Okay, 1-drop, 2-drop, Decimate you never keep, and I don't think we keep Gangplank in this opener. I think we can do better than that. Alright, Captain Farron's pretty... well, I mean, yeah, the Captain Farron's terrible. Could win us the game out of nowhere, but that's definitely not where we want to be in this matchup. Alright, didn't think they'd have a turn 1 play, so. Get our clock going. now we get to play Grenadier. Okay, interesting. Do we just go straight to combat next turn? Probably. Although, my opponent's probably got something. They're thinking about something. Yes, new Drake, that's pretty great. Okay. They just wanted to see if I played something better? I think now we probably play the other Grenadier, right? I think we're fine with that. And anything... Okay, yep. I mean, anything he blocks still kills it.
Here they come.
Alright. Oh, we get 4 damage through. We lose most of our board, but it could be a lot worse. Our opponent kept a nice early hand, so that's good for him. I think that was Lieutenant kind of at its best. Shouldn't have Challenger, right? Yeah. Alright. We're fine with this. Chances are we're probably playing Jack the Winner next turn. Regardless of how this goes. We'll take the 4. We'll probably leave Jagged Butcher back. Because at this point we're just kinda... We kinda just want to have a chump blocker. Alright, he didn't have a kill spell, so that's good. That is one of the things we were worried about. Yeah, no, he does not have a kill spell. Because that is definitely where you would kill you would kill this and not let us untap with it. Okay. So we will kill this, I think. We're definitely not going to give them a Jack the Winner. Okay. Interesting. That's fine. We're okay with that. I think that's probably best, right?
There are none like me.
I think we're gonna Saboteur plus Jack the Winner here, and that sets up a triggered Gangplank next turn.
I have my orders.
Oh, he's got a rally effect. Well, that's pretty sweet. We'll play Jack the Winner. So we're gonna have to chump, right? Because otherwise we die. Yeah. Okay. Well, we'll chump then. Yeah, I mean, if they have another rally effect, it's kind of scary.
You wanted rough.
Yeah, I think we'll just do this. Maybe we should have played Gangplank first. Woof. Woof. Concerted strike, huh? Okay. So we will do this. And that'll strip Spell Shield, so Gangplank is lethal. Well, not necessarily lethal, but will do trigger to the Fuse Firebrand as well. Alright, see if he has another one. Because he'll need another combat effect. Like her one, the Strafing Strike. That would be brutal for us.
Hard to get rich.
What's he got? Drops him to 4. Okay. We are at a pretty low health total. I don't think we can tap out for Captain Farron. As much as we would love to.
Behold my true form.
Ugh. Can we play this? Okay. We'll play Zap. That is what we wanted. Okay. I don't think that's lethal.
For the Empire.
Not yet, anyways. It's close, though.
For the glory of Noxus. Your path ends here.
Okay, that has me alive. Interesting, he didn't go for the strafing strike. Impressed. I mean, I have lethal here. What's he got? Okay, so I think we win now, right? I don't think there's anything he can do. At 1 mana, yeah. Alright, there we go. Alright, that was incredibly sketchy. I mean, my opponent should have gone for the strafing strike in combat. I don't know why they didn't. It would have been the same result, but weird, because that would have at least presented lethal. Whereas this way, we are going to get to untap, so chances are that would be bad for our opponent regardless of what we found. But yeah, alright, we'll take that. Alright, well, that's a Blast from the Past. Trundle Soul Ring. Alright. I don't necessarily think this deck's any worse in the meta now than it was, so that seems like a fine thing. Alright, nothing good for Demolitionist, so we'll pitch that. Zap Sprayfin, pretty good in this matchup, and since we're attacking on turn 3, I'll keep the Misfortune. I like everything we got here. Jack the Winner's alright. This is one of the better matchups for it, so that seems fine. My opponent shouldn't have a turn 1 play, so this is a ton of damage. Best 1-drop we could have in this matchup. But yeah, this is, yeah, it's Blast from the Past. At least we know this matchup pretty well. Okay, faces the old one. Nice. We'll see what happens here. There are some decisions to be made here. Okay, so he has 4 mana. That means he can Avalanche, so we swing. Tempting to play Misfortune first, but since Avalanche is on the table, we definitely swing. See what our opponent does. Weirding Stones. Okay, so I think we'll play Monkey Idol then. And that gives us a chump blocker next turn. Our opponent's going to be at 6 mana. So that's a little scary, but could be fine. Alright, so he can't Avalanche, so we will play this Demolitionist, I think? Or do we play Misfortune? Maybe we Misfortune. Yeah, he can't do a board wipe.
Hey there, little one.
So that's totally fine. We are perfectly okay with that. Let's get our hit, and we'll probably swing with everything here, I think. Which means Misfortune dies, but that's more damage through, so that's the ultimate goal of our deck. Okay. Yeah, that's fine. He still takes a ton of damage here.
Love ya.
Let's see what he does, because it's still very possible for him to Avalanche this turn.
Hell of a day.
Okay, so we will play, I think, Monkey Idol, although Jack the Winner is pretty strong too. Maybe we'll Jack. Maybe we'll Jack. Oh, man, Monkey Idol's so good though. At this point. No, we'll Jack because then next turn we can Monkey Idol plus Demolitionist plus Fervor, I think. Which that's the largest chance that our opponent just dies next turn.
You wanted wrath.
All right, so our opponent has 1 billion mana. That is one of our best possible draws. Okay, so I guess we are just going to try to kill our opponent with that on the stack. Chances are we're in such a great shape that we could probably kill our opponent even if this resolves. but I would prefer if it doesn't. Alright, yep, and there's game. Alright, got there. That was not bad at all, but pretty traditional matchup. Nothing really new on display there. That probably would have gained him 10 health. He probably pulled a Aurelion Soul off the Dragon Draw, because this deck doesn't usually run a ton of other ones. Or it could have been Mind Splitter. Either way, he was going to gain a bunch of life there. At least it wouldn't have made it free, but still better to just kill him in response. That deck doesn't have a lot of ways to kill our units at fast speed. Alright, TF Swain. I don't really remember how this matchup goes. But, yeah, definitely things... Well, any of our 1-drops die to what their deck does. Make It Rain's pretty bad. Noxian Fervor's pretty bad. Gangplank, I mean, Gangplank could be good, but we have no way to really enable him yet, so we'll pass that. Okay, that is good. That's actually insane. Alright, yeah, never mind, we're good. Saboteur is a great turn 1 against them, because they usually don't have an answer. This could be... I could see them going Jagged Butcher, but there's variants that did it. And I could see going into this meta with that. But, that said... Ooh. Okay. Well, in that case, we'll play Precious Pet. Okay. What? Why? You should swing with both. I'm definitely going to take the damage. Okay, can we... What can we play here? That's the real question. I think we can play this Misfortune. He can definitely kill it, but I think we're okay with that. I think if he spends his mana to kill Misfortune, that's fine. The question is, what else does he have? Make It Rain. Well, that is brutal. Yep, that's the worst. He got pretty lucky there. Kill 2 of our 1-drops and hit our Misfortune. So now we can't even attack with her because she'll trade. And if he hits Death's Hand, yeah, that... Our opponent got insanely lucky there, but we still forced through a fair amount of damage, so Misfortune's still the right play there. Make It Rain would have killed all but 1 of our units, and it's possible that if it hit, like, both Precious Pets, for example, that we would have been in really bad shape, so... Honestly, that was... still the better play. Tempting to play Zap here. I don't think we actually want him. Grenadier is very good into this matchup because if our opponent kills it, it still does damage. So we're fine with that. Good chance our Misfortune dies here, but he'll have to lose a unit to do it. Oh, actually no. He could have Death's Hand. He could have Death's Hand. Yeah, very good chance Misfortune dies here. I've already just accepted that. That's just where we're at. Oh, wow. Alright. Well, that's sweet. Yeah, I think we just swing like this then. Get our trigger? Maybe? Do we swing with Misfortune too? To try and force more damage through? No. We want to force our opponent to waste things to kill her. Yeah, I mean, that's good. They missed the Precious Pet this time. And we still kill House Spider, so that's good. Some extra damage through. I guess we're probably playing Jack the Winner then? That's probably our best play here. I can always Decimate too, but I don't think he can kill Jack, so we'll play him. I suppose he could double up. Fervor plus... Well, double... No, Fervor plus Death's Hand would work. Oh, God. There she goes. That was a really good twist of fate. I mean, we're still fine with it, but... Ooh. I actually kind of like Make It Rain here. I guess we'll go for this here. I mean, my opponent, I don't think has lethal here, so that's 5 plus another 5, so that's 10 damage. Ooh. Wow. Ah, so that's the different card he's running. Okay. I mean, we're still not dead here. So, we lose the 2 points. That sucks, but we'll play Zap next turn. Or, we'll play Zap, pull a card, probably. Ooh, we did stop the TF attack? Yeah, I mean, I guess we can... well, we don't really want to kill TF, do we? We'd rather take the damage and then sleep with the fishes, the demolitionist, for some extra damage. Yeah, and then we'll play Zap. That's a 3-mana spell, right? Because it's like a guillotine replacement? Yeah. Okay.
Like a fish in water.
We're actually, as weird as this seems, we're in good shape here. I know that sounds wild, but we actually are in pretty solid shape here. Okay, so we're looking for Decimate plus Fervor, so we can play the Saboteur. What's he got? Okay, that's totally fine. And then we will swing with Saboteur.
Everything's in place.
Drops him to 7. Now, ideally, we want our opponent to tap out. Okay. Now he only has 2 cards in hand. So we're gonna Decimate. Was that the last Make It Rain? I think it was. So... yeah, we're just gonna go for this. I don't want him to untap. If he gets to draw, we're in bad shape. Okay, we got there. Perfect. There's just no waiting there. There was answers he could have, and plenty of them, but letting him untap just means he has a way higher chance of getting it. So that was just something we had to take the risk and go for it, and paid off this time. All right, the Star Spring deck. Interesting, interesting. I've played this once already, but we'll see how this goes. Tom Kench is subtly a little bit scary for us, but ooh, nice and aggressive. Though I do kind of like... I prefer Precious Pet in this matchup. They have plenty of ways to stonewall a Saboteur. I think we're still going to play her, though. Okay. Well, I'm just going to go straight to combat here. My opponent could... ooh. My opponent could kill her, but... alright, perfect. That's what we wanted. Now, we're going to play Jagged Butcher plus Precious Pet, I believe. Is what we're going for here. Okay, we're fine with that. That's not that bad. And he doesn't have the turn 2 Star Spring or 1-drop, so that is ideal. I don't know. He could be playing Make It Rain, which is what our board state is pretty bad against. Typically speaking, Precious Pet is pretty good into this deck, though, because they don't typically run a ton of removal. Ooh. They don't typically run a ton of removal. And they don't typically run a lot of things that can block Precious Pet. So good news here is anything this attacks will trade with it. Yeah, my opponent has a difficult decision here. That's the easiest answer. So that's solid. Because then they have 3 blockers going into the next turn. Well, we are just going to swing. My opponent wants to trade with this, but if he blocks anything else, he loses the units that block, which means that has 1 less thing for him to heal. Ah, okay, there we go. Oh, which means that will live, which is good for him. The one nice thing about this deck is that while they have a lot of healing, they do have a tendency to use it on their own things. How do we feel about this? I think we play Grenadier here. I think we're okay slow playing a Decimate. Obviously, we're not playing Jack the Winner until after he attacks.
Get bloody, get
Yep,
paid.
that's fine. Let him swing. So I assume he's going to, because he would lose a pretty big opportunity to heal if he does it differently than that. Okay. Yep, that's fine. We lose our board, but honestly, they weren't going to do much anymore anyways. Alright, play Jack the Winner. It's a lot of damage. We actually... So, we might play this Gangplank. It depends on how things go. Okay, maybe we'll play Misfortune instead then. Yeah, we'll play Misfortune here. We're not terribly close to dying to what our opponent has. That does not mean much, though. Soraka's Wish, so that'll level Soraka up. Okay.
Stars.
That is fine.
By the power of the stars.
So currently she does not kill Misfortune. So I think we'll swing with Misfortune for the trigger. We're much more worried about losing Jack the Winner. Yeah, I mean, we're fine with that. That is okay. Pump spell? Okay. Oh, we force him to use it. So that's the important thing here. We're still not dying to his board next turn, which is what we are most scared of. We do not want to lose to his board next turn. We're still not losing to the board next turn. So we are looking for this Gangplank next turn. Maybe we should have decimated there. That might have been a spot where we decimate. That one's a little more hard to say. What's he got? So, the most damage he can do is like 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Honestly, I'm not even sure that that's worth doing on his part. Yep, we'll take the damage. Not dead. We are not dead yet. Man, what do we do here? So I can do this plus zap, then Gangplank? No, we're gonna Gangplank.
The top of the bounty board himself.
Okay, we're gonna go for this. Which has him almost dead right now. What's he got? There's a number of things he could have here that would be bad for us. Now, probably less. Okay, we'll decimate. Drop him to 2. What does he have? So I think we just swing here. Yeah, we just swing here. Trigger is lethal. Potentially. If he has Make It Rain, it won't be. Okay, that's fine. Heal spell? Yep, okay, okay. Now he lives. For now. That drops him to 2. What else has he got? Can he kill Gangplank? That is one of the first questions. I think we're probably playing Zap Sprayfin and hoping it pulls like Noxian Fervor would be the best pull. We killed the Challenger at least. Yeah, so we'll play Sprayfin, see what he finds. Make It Rain. That is one of the worst finds. Half tempting to cast it, just in the chance that it kills any of these, but it's not actually worth it. Okay. Well, we have blockers going into this round. We have more blockers going into this round. So currently have 3 blocks.
Place could use some order.
Okay, we'll play this.
Be at peace.
She isn't too bad for us yet. Okay. And this is still a damage right here.
You point, I shoot.
I mean, we have a number of ways to force damage through here. Okay, that's fine. That's fine. That's fine. And then we just block here and see what our opponent does. Because the onus will be on them. Okay. Are they going to go for that? I mean, that does give them the best chance of survival, in theory. Okay, well, we will make it rain. And see what that does for us. Okay, well, that is lethal if our opponent doesn't do anything. It probably has a heal spell. That's still lethal. That does not work the way I think you think it works. Oh, yep, there it is. Alright. Well, and we have it. Yeah, this matchup seems very scary every time I play it, but we have won both times, so doesn't necessarily seem bad. But there you go. Alright, on to the next. Alright, well, it's Star Spring again. This ought to be sketchy. Very, very sketchy. Ooh, this hand's pretty bad. I do like Monkey Idol here. I also like Grenadier, potentially. These are bad. At least they're bad to be starting with. Man, it's tempting to pitch something like Grenadier in a chance for a 1-drop, but I think we just pitch these two and hope. Alright. So far, our hope's not in vain. Okay, perfect. We will play Butcher. Hope he doesn't play anything. He didn't. Perfect. We are definitely going to swing this turn. Chances that he doesn't have something this turn to block, very low. And then we'll play Grenadier. Oh, we might have missed some damage. Okay, wow. Turn 1, turn 2, do nothing. That's pretty rare from this deck, in my opinion. What do we want to do here? Okay. Very unfortunate that we don't get to react to something like that, but that is what it is. We'll play Monkey Idol this turn. Now we get 2 attackers this turn. What is it normally? Oh, Astral Protection is a permanent? Oh, I missed that. I don't know how I missed that. Alright, yep. That's not surprising. We expected that. So, Monkey Idol's dead next turn. We might as well ping it. We might as well ping it. For some extra damage. This is very scary, where our opponent has us right now. Our opponent is in a good spot, and we are in a bad one. Interesting. Yeah, I mean, we will make it rain. If he doesn't have anything, then it'll die. I doubt that he doesn't. But, interesting. They usually try to save their unit. It's a little surprising. Alright, we'll let our opponent figure out how he wants to acquire taste. Or we will let him lose the acquired taste. Ooh, that does work. Sweet. Oh wait, because it's ephemeral! I don't know that's gonna work for him. Yeah, he doesn't capture it. That's interesting. You know what? I'm just gonna play Gangplank here. Actually, I think this is actually the best play this turn. Because even without leveling up the Gangplank, he's really good right now just attacking.
Closer, friend.
Because I do have this Make It Rain that would be boosted. Okay, so he's at 10 health. Dear lord. Yeah, I mean, alright. That happens. Yeah, I think we can. Yeah, we'll just do this, I guess. Yeah, that's fine. We actually still kill that. Though, there's a debate now of whether we want to kill that. We might not. I actually don't want to play Jagged Butcher because that's something he can eat without losing Tom Kench. Although, now, not so much. No, we'll pass here. We got our damage this turn. That was the important part. We needed to be able to do damage this turn, so Gangplank is closer to leveling up.
Oh, Tom, there may be redemption for you yet.
Yeah, that's fine.
By starlight.
Yeah, I assume that's how he goes for this. Yeah, we'll block like that. Okay, that's interesting. All right, so this is where we have to make decisions. We're gonna play Jagged Butcher first, I think. Oh no! We play Precious Pet first. See if he goes to eat it. This is a good card here, regardless. Okay, we'll play Legion Saboteur. Okay, perfect. We get our Gangplank. His stuff heals this turn. Soraka levels up.
Of the stars. Live with purpose.
Currently, nothing can block the Precious Pet. Maybe we should have Demolitionist first. Maybe that's where we wanted to be. Man, this game's gonna be close. This game's gonna be really close. How close is Star Spring? Okay, very far.
So what's in store for me?
I need time for commune, Tom. This you know.
Do we? I guess we don't Demolitionist yet.
Get to work.
Oof. That's not great. It's actually, that's as bad as it could possibly be. So that's very good for our opponent. Do some damage here.
You for the man.
I mean, they're still at a low life total, but we are officially out of cards, and they are getting closer to that Star Spring win. Actually, they probably have it if they want it. They probably have it.
Appetizers of plenty.
Let's. Oh, Lord. Okay, pass. I'm trying to think here. So, Soraka heals Tom. He heals to full, which is an absurdly large number that I don't know off the top of my head. Okay, that's not terrible for our opponent.
Where are you, spirit?
Yeah, that's fine. I assume he's gonna eat this Gangplank? That's what he's going for, right? Star Spring is not lethal yet. Yeah, I can't block. If I block, I risk losing the game. I mean, we're pretty much guaranteed to lose at this point regardless. but that would be our worst case scenario because he would heal both of these with Star Spring at the end of turn, and then if he like Guiding Touch heals Tom Kench or something, then we just lose the game. Double Guiding Touch would be 4 plus another 2, get 6, which is lethal.
What's in store for me?
Okay.
I need time for commune.
I think that's game, right? Maybe? Oh wait, no. No, that is not game. I don't know what we're thinking there.
Oh, there's something for
Yeah, I guess we go for 2 damage. What's he got? I mean, we're presumably dead. We are presumably dead here.
Come on in.
What does he need? He needs some way to heal Tom out of hand, and he has a billion cards. So yeah, this game should be over. That's it, right? Yep. GG. And that'll get there. Yep. Alright, well, that time was pretty good for our opponent. Alright, so how did Bilgewater Burn do in Season 5? One quick aside for the matches, you may have noticed that they weren't exactly in order. I dropped one of the Soraka Tom Kench games that I had, that the one that immediately preceded the 4 games you saw here. I dropped that one, and I instead took one from later on, because I lost that one as well, but I think it demonstrates the matchup a little bit better than the one that would have followed these 4 games, so I wanted to use the later games. So that's why you'll notice if you pay attention to the end that we jump a bit in LP going into that last round. So that's the deal with that. Just wanted to let you know that that's what I went with. I thought it was a better game overall for just giving you an idea of how you should expect that matchup to go. I've played a total of 15 games so far, and I've gone 9-6, so that's a 60% win rate, which honestly is worse than I expected. I'm really not sure how this Bilgewater Targon Sora Tom matchup goes. I'm 2-2 playing against it. Everyone's on the list right now, so that's interesting. That matchup's really a toss-up at this point. It felt like a really, really good matchup, and then I've lost the last 2 times to it because they've comboed off pretty quickly. I think that's really what it comes down to. They have a lot of life gain, and they can actually kill us pretty quickly, which that becomes scary. But we play pretty well into it, because Precious Pet can force damage through pretty much on any round. It's hard for them to be able to deal with that, and Tom Kench is actually the biggest threat. As funny as that is, we can win faster than Star Spring, but Tom Kench eating our units over and over again, especially if they have the way to buff its health, that's a real problem for us because they get a lot of value out of that, since also they want Tom Kench to take damage. But they can kill most of our units with that, and honestly, even if Tom Kench dies, if he can steal our Gangplank, that's actually devastating for us, and they can make it fairly easy for that to happen. So that's a big problem. I think we can still hold our own in the matchup. It's really hard to say, but we're so aggressive so fast that we should be able to get through a fair bit against them, and their life gain isn't that big for us, so I feel like it's still a decent matchup, but 50-50 might be where it actually ends up, where you can really win sometimes and lose sometimes just as easily. So I think that's decent possibility. Honestly, this deck should have a higher win rate. Just looking at the losses, we lost the mirror match to Burn. To put it into perspective, on turn 3, our opponent blocked a Misfortune with a Jagged Butcher, and then Noxie and Fervored their Jagged Butcher to kill Misfortune, leaving them with 2 cards, and me at 20 health, and them at 17 health? No, 18 health, and I had 5 cards in hand. My opponent won that game. And that's just honestly pretty. I don't want to say bad play, but that's a terrible play on paper. They just really went runner, 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 and won honestly entirely off luck. They drew into Gangplank, they drew into Jack the Winner. They just drew nuts off the top of their deck constantly, and eventually only won because we were stuck with 2 Fervors in hand and no units, plus a Decimate. So that's really the only reason they won. So that's one loss up. We lost to Deep Monsters. They had Maokai turn 4, a bunch of ways to turn on the Maokai, which got them to deep by like turn 7, turn 8, I think. Actually, no, it was turn 6. They landed Abyssal Eye and went deep that turn, which is absolutely absurd. They found 2 of their life gain creatures, the whatchamacallit, Deadbloom Wanderer. They found 2 of them, and they found the Atrocity for lethal, so they got pretty lucky in that game as well. And then Nightfall has always been kind of a so-so matchup. And our other loss was to, outside of those matchups we just discussed, was a loss to Draven Darius Aggro that was running Noxus and Targon, and that game was really close. So that one's more legitimate. The deep monsters in Bilgewater Burn, we just got unlucky. They got super lucky. That happens. The Soraka Tom Kench deck, I do think that's close to a 50-50 win rate. So let's look at some of the other matchups that are important right now. As already established, we're good into the Lee Sin matchup. I'm pretty confident with that. We are pretty solid into that matchup. We're pretty solid into Trundle Soul. I played against that and won again. That's a super favorite matchup for us. So that hasn't changed since the patch, as far as I've seen so far. But one of the other big new decks is Dragons. We were good against Dragons before, but Dragons was a lot worse before. That said, still beat it every time. This time, I think that's 2 games, 3 games? 3 games. We played against Soraka Shyvana Dragons, we played against just Shyvana Dragons, and we played against Garen Shyvana Dragons, and we beat both. So that matchup seems pretty solid. So that's one of the new decks. We're still good against that deck. Yeah. It's a new deck, but there's the old version we were good against. We're good against the new version. We're still good against Trundle Soul Control. We're still good against Lee Sin. So it's really just the Soraka Tom Kench deck that is the question mark. I think we're probably going to be close to 50-50 in that matchup, which means this deck is still set for grinding, if that's what you want. Your matches are very quick. You have a pretty decent matchup against most other decks. Our big deck we were afraid to find was stuff like Zombie Ash last meta, and I don't think we'll be seeing much of that this meta. I could be wrong, but I have a feeling that deck does not line up well against a lot of the new decks, so I wouldn't really expect to see it. So I think Bilgewater Burn is in a great position still if you want to climb with it. The fact that it's only got a 60% win rate right now, for me, in the 15 games I played, is a little concerning. But like I said, right now we're still at a low number of games played, so those 2 really luck-based games are kind of swinging things a little bit more than they should. And we've had a couple of just weird matchups. Like the Nightfall deck, that was always a close one, but we usually were favorites, so losing that was unfortunate. And the Draven Darius aggro, we're the better deck, but our hand was kind of slow in that matchup, and their hand was very fast and a lot of gas. Like, we're talking a couple of Ballistas, the Draven, the turn 6 Darius that levels up instantly. Like, they had a lot of great stuff, and they played a bunch of Overwhelmers with Crescent Guardian. So, yeah, that matchup went very well for them. But I think we could expect to win that matchup most times if we end up running into that deck. So I think the deck is better than its win rate suggests. But we'll have to see as the meta develops. And I promise you, it'll be a different deck next week. It won't be Bilgewater Burn again. It'll be something new. I've got a couple of decks I'm looking at. I love the idea of dragons. There might be a video next week about building your own dragon deck, because I've seen a couple of mistakes being made, and I think the deck can be better than people are playing. Although I have to play with the deck myself a little bit more to make sure I've got my list down where it is. So that might be a video that comes out. If not, it might be on the grind next week. Fizzlusives, I've only played 2 games on the meta and went 1-1. So that could also happen. I think that deck could be pretty solid, just like I thought beforehand. Yeah, there's a handful of decks that might be next week, but I'm going to try to avoid playing... I mean, I'm not going to do Burn again another week in a row, but I'm probably going to be playing a lot of Burn this week because I do think it's in a good position to climb and want to get back up to Masters, so we'll see how that goes. Thanks for watching the video. If you enjoyed the video, leave a like, comment below, and subscribe for more videos just like it.